What's up, my Yuki Bros? I'm yours, the one, the only, the RJB0. Welcome to Casual Friday. I wanted to do Casual Friday today, but I also wanted to do it early because I have a convention coming up this evening. So my co-host Shadows here is not allowing me to move. So it appears that I am going to be doing it in a place with not so hot lighting. I hope you guys are okay with that. By the way, anybody who is not currently active on the Facebook group, the Business Casual Facebook group, it absolutely should check it out. You guys were freaking amazing last night. My video for the next great YouTuber got posted in something like 30 groups. The group just became an amazing publicity machine. I was just super impressed. So you guys were like the real winners when it came to the next great YouTuber competition. But let's get down to some Q&A. We start off with Yul Franz, who asks, do you think Burn is a decent answer to Clifford because they pay life points for Drain and Tool and Ceasefire is at 2? I actually do think that Chain Burn is going to do fairly well this format. There's just not a lot of decks that can do very much to counter it. I think Trap Stun is going to become less popular as MST becomes more popular for the Cliffort matchup. So I think that there will be Chain Burn decks that we see in the top tables of smaller events like regionals and stuff like that. Yul Franz also asks, do you recommend Curse Seal the Forbidden Spell in decks that play a lot of spells to shut down Tool and Laser Clip? Actually, I don't think Laser Clip is going to be a problem, but I would still run Curse Seal the Forbidden Spell if your deck really runs the spell support for it, because Curse Seal the Forbidden Spell shutting down Tool really sucks for a Cliffort player. And even if you hit something like Summoner's Art, then they don't get their Tool that turn, and that's a setback, and then if they draw Summoner's Arts later, they're utterly dead. So I would say that, yeah, if you can run the spell support for a Curse Seal the Forbidden Spell, go right ahead. Otherwise, MST works really well. I'm still thinking about Malcat. Now, a lot of people are saying Fairy Wind, but the thing I like about Malcat is it hits the back row that they haven't used yet, and Clifforts will often save things like Skill Drain and Vanity's Emptiness until they absolutely need them, because a lot of the time plays that your opponent makes when you're playing Clifforts aren't really enough of a threat for you to flip up Skill Drain immediately or something like that. So instead of hitting just the face-up ones and leaving the face-down back row to your opponent, you can hit them all with Malcat. And I absolutely love Malcat. Exarose asks, in your opinion, what's the most undersupported type excluding Worm? And if you had the opportunity to design a card for that type, what would you do to help support it? I think Psychics need some new decent support. I think ever since the Teledad days, like, Psychics have done very little. Yes, there was Jeff Jones's Grand Soil Psychics, but after that event, Grand Soil Psychics disappeared. I think they got one top 32 at a YCS. But other than that, Grand Soil Psychics were basically non-existent. Ethan Monma asks, what do you think of Clifforts, or Cleeports? Many people call me skillless whenever I test them out. However, in each case, they do not side properly for it. The thing about Clifforts, and the thing that makes people think that they're skillless, it's that they have a very default play, but it's not the default play because they don't have any other plays. It's a default play because it's such a good play that you don't really need any of the other ones. It takes a deck to really challenge Clifforts before they actually have to delve into the various decision-making processes that you need to make. Clifforts are actually subtle and nuanced unless you're playing against a deck that's significantly lower power than them, in which case their default play of building up with Sacrifice and Tool and things like that until you have access to towers is just such a good play that you don't need anything else. Siding against them is actually fairly easy. Anything that hits spell cards is what you want to go for. Hitting monsters won't help you at all. Things like Time Space Trapple is good to have in the main deck, but it's not something you want to side against them because it doesn't hurt them badly enough. Things like and Deep Dark Trap Hole, any of those like trap hole kind of things that stop summoning, specifically Pendulum Summoning. If you're going to try and stop them from Pendulum Summoning, don't bother. They hardly ever Pendulum Summon. They do it just like 1 or 2 times a game at most. So what I would go for is hitting the back row. You want Spell and Trap Hate. That's all you want in siding against Clifforts. That, and if you can, Mistake and Ryo. FireKid88000 asks, what do you think of a level 2 to 3 beast spam deck? I'm not aware of one that can compete right now. I know that beasts have gotten a lot of cool support over the years that I want to be good, like Obedient Schooled and Horn of the Phantom Beast, but I think they're really past their prime, and or they haven't gotten enough support yet. From Jilly Bellamere, do you feel like Tellarknights are the new Hunter? I don't feel like Tellarknights are the new Hunter. They need too much special summoning. And yes, they have some pretty good pluses and a lot of back row, but I think that Thunder Family, once it gets going, gets way more pluses than Tellarknights could ever dream of getting. It's just the Thunder Family can't run as much back row, and so that's kind of the trade-off between the two. From Yu-Gi-Oh! About 70 to 75% of the top 8 finishers in large tournaments use decks that focused on cards from Duelist Alliance since that set was released. How do you think the new challengers will compare in terms of impact? I think there's only one full archetype that's coming out of new challenger that we really have to look out for, and that's, of course, Kleeports. But I'm certain that every top deck is going to be using cards from Duelist Alliance. Shinchi Kudo, what are your thoughts on Gishkis in the current format? Wait for Nekloth. That's my thoughts on Gishkis. Paul Frazier asks, how do you feel about Upstart? 1,000 to draw. Is it worth it in the new format? I think the answer depends on what deck you're running. I refer you to my Upstart Goblin Theory video that I made just a few days ago. Anthem Log says, Chainbeat, where is it going? How will it hold up this coming meta, and how can it be improved? I think actually Chainbeat has a really strong Cliffort matchup. Mostly because of Black Garden and partially because of Compulsory Escape Device. Compulsory Escape Device has a really good Cliffort matchup. The only thing Chainbeat has to worry about from Clifforts is skill drain, and you can take care of that with things like MST and Twister. Eric Nilsson asks, Nurse Burn or Chain Burn? I would have to go with neither, but if I had to choose, I would say Life Equalizer Burn. David Casimir asks, Noble Knights rarities were revealed. What do you think of them? I think that they're absolutely ugly. I can't say anything about Noble Knights. If you want to learn about Noble Knights, go to the Ignoble Knight of YouTube. I'll see if I can link his channel in the description. Hades X736. What deck would you recommend for the next format? Something around tier 2 and relatively inexpensive. Evil Swarms. I gave up my Evil Swarms yesterday, but that was because I traded off my Exciton Knight. But Evil Swarms are excellent this format. Rush X Anthem asks, do you think that due to the power creep that Konami will be forced to up their game and make their filler archetypes better, or do you think that they won't do this and the gap between the meta and the rogue will become even more disproportionate? Also, do you think rank 4 Xyz decks are losing relevance, and what do you think the next big trend in Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks will be? I think in terms of trends, I think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks are diversifying a ton. Once Nekloths come out, it will be the first time, basically, even since before Pendulums came out, when every mechanic in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was being used or abused. So we're going to be seeing fusions, we're going to be seeing rituals, normal monsters, effect monsters, pendulums, synchros, and Xyz. Basically, every mechanic Konami has ever come up with, we're going to see in the post-Nekloth format. And in terms of filler archetypes, don't forget that the last format, the one before the Shadow Burning Abyss Tellarknight format, and now the Shadow Burning Abyss Cliffort format, rogue decks were huge. The meta was incredibly diverse with older and newer decks. So just because this format we're getting a bunch of really overpowered stuff, and we aren't going to be seeing a huge number of rogue decks this format, doesn't mean that we are never going to see rogue decks again. Cyber Pegasus 3535 asks, what does Junk Doppel need the most right now? I'd actually say that Junk Doppel needs every card out of the Junk Doppel or the Synchron Structure deck to be as overpowered as it sounds like from the blurb. We learned from Scrap Iron's Statue that that's probably not going to be the case. I was expecting something much better from Scrap Iron Statue, but it turns out that we are not getting quite as good of support as I was hoping for. Ezra Titsworth asks, I got 2 questions for you. What are your favorite rock bands other than Queen? Well, my dad raised me on Kansas, and my mom introduced me to Don Henley and indirectly the Eagles. Those are probably 2 of my favorite. My dad also introduced me to U2. I really like things like War and Joshua Tree. Those are really freaking good albums. Really, I'm mostly a hip-hop fan. And I also get into dance music. Drum and bass is just awesome. The second question was, do you think Vanity's Emptiness will get limited January 1st? I think that it probably will. I think that it's going to see enough use that both Skill Drain and Emptiness are likely to see hits on this format. The reason why they hadn't seen hits previously is because they hadn't been used in enough meta decks. Wheezy Leaf 9038 space 3 asks, Dandelion is fun. Can we have more? I think that we could get more Dandelion. I used to think that the problem with Plant Synchro is Dandelion, but now, now that we have the rest of the engine, I don't think Dandelion is an issue, so I think that we could get more of it. I don't even think that we would run more of it. And he also asked what my favorite rarity. Hands down, ultra rare. Ultra rares are the most beautiful rarity. Older / really newer ultimate rares are pretty nice too. Like Ultimate Rare Construct is beautiful. But I'm really into ultra rares. Galactic God asks, what are your thoughts on Legendary Collection 5Ds? Did it live up to the hype, or did you find it disappointing? I was really disappointed. I think the things that they chose to support, other than the main reprints that we got, were really disappointing. I don't think that anybody really wanted reprints from the Nordics or the Mech Lords. I think we were looking for reprints of plants and psychics and things like that that came out during the 5Ds era. But we hardly got any plants or psychics out of this, and I thought that the majority of the set was actually pretty awful. There were some really nice holo reprints that we got, but other than that, I'm just very disappointed by Legendary Collection 5Ds. Cursed Child says, do you know how other decent decks like Mist Valley, Volcanics, Kawaki Meras, etc. work, or are you just another bandwagon who only knows the meta and what used to be the meta? I would have chosen different choices to talk about decent rogue decks, but I don't know if you've seen any of my deck profiles. The vast majority of them have been rogue decks. Yes, I know how decks other than the current and past meta work. I mean, I would have chosen other things than Mist Valley, Volcanics, and Kawaki Meras because right now all three of those are awful. And the only time I remember Mist Valley being particularly good, you didn't really use a lot of Mist Valleys in it. It was the Gen X Birdman and Gen X Blast Fan spam. I mean, that's the last time we used any Mist Valley support in the mainstream. Kawaki Meros had Rock Stun for a little while. They'll be getting Overdose, which is really good. But other than that, Kawakis have had very little good support and have had very little success in events. And Volcanics are going to get Magazine, which is freaking amazing. But other than that, I mean, in terms of any kind of recent format, Volcanics have seen no play. And they haven't, it's because they pretty much aren't good. Praise the Squid, which is probably my favorite name I've ever seen on YouTube, says, do you think agents will ever get a representative for Neptune or Pluto? I hope so, and I do hope, since you asked about it, that at least one of them will be a synchro, considering the fact that agents have multiple tuners. I also hope that one of them is good main deck support, like something fast, something speedy, something that maybe summons agents from the deck or something. Yu-Gi-Oh! Phoenix asks, who is your favorite doctor? Ooh, I'm really hardcore for 9. I also really liked 5. And I'm really, 12 is really growing on me. I like the curmudgeon type, but really I think 9 has to go down as my favorite. Chris Eccleston was just like such an understated actor, but it worked so well for him. I am absolutely in love with 9. Ninja Neos the 4th asked, what do you think will happen to Satellar Knights, seeing that Clifforts can go for rank 4s as well? I rarely see Clifforts go for rank 4s, mostly because while they have a Pendulum on the board in the Spell and Trap Zone, they can't summon anything other than Clifforts. So, I mean, they don't really go for rank 4s a lot, and I think that Satellar Knights are going to hit a back burner for a while until the current decks get hit pretty hard, and then because Triver is so good, I think that Satellar Knights are definitely going to see play after the Cliffort and Necroth thing works itself out. And finally, from Hatsune Miku Kim, we have, do you think Burning Abyss has a chance against the new Clifforts? I think that Burning Abyss is going to be the best deck of the format. I think that Burning Abyss has more than all of the support it needed. I think once they got Virgil and Rubik, they had all the support they needed. But then they gave them Fire Lake of the Burning Abyss, and then now they have more than all the support they needed. I think that Burning Abyss will be the best deck of the format, and I do think that they're going to do well against Clifforts. So that's the Q&A. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below. And of course, if you have any questions to ask me for the next Q&A session, let me know in the comment section below. And of course, subscribe for more deck discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Thank you guys for watching. I'm your host, the one, the only, the RJB0, and I got a jet. See you guys.